Greetings. My name is Mark Gura, co-author of Creative SEL, Hands-on Projects to Boost Social Emotional Learning, a guide for teachers and others who work with students. The book offers 32 activities, all of which engage students in creative projects. In addition to those we created on our own, my writing partner Michelle Haken and I invited 14 contributors to submit activities, resulting in a book with a very diversified group of activity writers and a rich and varied body of activities. One of these was contributed by a man named DULA, who does art-oriented social work to improve the quality of life in a variety of communities. As part of his work, he developed a relevant, effective, and inspiring approach to social understandings through group art experiences. In the interview that follows, he explains this in detail, suggesting ways that the listener might follow his lead. I'd like to add that featuring DULA in the book had special meaning for me, as he was a student in my own New York City public school art class as a young man many years ago. For me, this was true serendipity. You know, I actually remember having a grading book and your name being entered as Kareem DULA Dixon. That was a while back.
Yes.
At any rate.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, I'm thankful, Mr. G, for, like I said, this is just a real connection for me from the beginning all the way to now. Every piece has a meaning. That's why I'm thankful to be talking with you right now and on that journey. So it makes a lot of sense to when you ask me the question of, you're not an art teacher, art is not on your bio. How did you come to that? You showed that. You don't have to be a Picasso. You don't have to be the best person in the class, as long as you are willing to try. And so comes from that. Just do it.
I'm very pleased to be in touch with you and collaborating with you a little bit. And, sometimes my memory of, let me put it this way, my memory of being the art teacher at that school in East Harlem, my memory is from the teacher's side of the desk. It's very gratifying to hear positive things from the students.
Of course.
So I want to start by thanking you, DULA.
Yes.
I have in my hands a copy of the book, which was published a few months back, Creative SEL, using hands-on projects to boost social emotional learning. So thanks again for contributing to the book. And
Thank you, Mr. G.
I guess I should add, to everyone's amusement, but this is very authentic, we've spoken over Zoom a couple of times before, mostly working on your activity for the book, and we established, mutually agreed on, that you're more comfortable calling me Mr. G, which is what you called me, I don't know, 35 years ago.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. When you were, I don't know, a 12, 13-year-old student, and I was, I guess, in my late 30s
Yes.
as a visual art teacher in that public school, New York City public school in Harlem.
Yes.
And boy, we had some good times there.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did, Mr. It was a beautiful, beautiful school, beautiful time. We needed it. The kids, we were coming up in it was a whole new world for us. So you laid a good foundation for a good number of kids. So I'm thankful.
And I much appreciate you saying that.
Yes.
So in addition to my thanking you for contributing to the book, it really is quite remarkable. I'm not even exactly sure how that happened,
Right.
but the gist of it is that we were both on Facebook, and I became aware of your DULA's neighborhood work, community consciousness raising work, social emotional education work you do in communities.
Right.
And I became aware of that, and I guess I contacted you totally forgetting that you had been my student 30 years before. When that finally dawned on me, when I finally realized it, I was just blown away. And
Yes, indeed. I was as well when you reached out, and of course, I always knew who you were, but I knew who you were in my life. So when you reached out, I didn't even think you didn't know. I thought you remembered me. And then as I realized, you have 500-600 kids that go through, so
I was a public school teacher for almost 18 years. So it's actually it was thousands of
exactly.
kids. And I was very focused on reaching out to potential contributors to the book. That's what my partner Michelle and I were up to, pull in contributors. So I was kind of focused on that. And so when I realized you were an ex-student, it was just a super added bonus.
Right.
And on a slight digression, one of the remarkable things for me is just from the school that you were my student in, I must have at least 50 Facebook friends who are, I'll call them kids, so they're middle-aged.
We do digress, but in all reality, it's hard for us not to talk about that moment in time. That's what really connects us. Once you reached out and then you was able to give me some direction that I trusted with that conversation, that's kind of what was the spark, to create what I presented to you, what I contributed to the book.
As I look at your work, I mean, this program you created and are running called DULA's Neighborhood, at this social emotional teaching and learning under the name DULA's Neighborhood. As I look at the artwork that's come out of it, and as I experience our conversations, if I influenced any of that, I'm very pleased and very proud. One other thing I do want to say is that most of the people who contributed to the book are licensed teachers, not all of them,
Right.
but for just about all of them, what's in the book is a slice of an ongoing effort.
Right.
And I get that you've been doing this for quite a while.
Right.
And after the book is published, probably thinking you're going to be doing it even longer, much longer.
Yes. Yes. It's just it's moving forward. Being in the Marine 12 years, it kind of instilled in me a type of leadership. When I got out, you kind of miss that type of environment where you're leading, you're learning, and you're a leader. I was a staff sergeant in the Marines. So coming into the community, I felt the same need of my ability to share and give back. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I started working for the Department of Defense as a logistics manager, trying to find my way. I had my family. My children's mother had just passed away. They were 6 and 3. And I think that was like probably the first impactful event in my adult lifehood that kind of put me on track to wanting to serve. But I knew early that I was going to be helping people. I always knew that since I was a young kid there.
I got it. So you went into the Marines, I guess, because you felt the need to do it,
Right.
and you much appreciated the challenge. You distinguished yourself as a successful Marine and became a leader, and this resonated for you. And after you left the Marines, this kind of sparked your understanding of what you can give to the world, which is leadership and basically in how to live right.
Right.
And what we have in the book is an activity which we batted around possible titles for this, you and I, and then me and the editors. And we ended up calling it Heartful Neighborhood Word Portraits. These are really portraits of the inner life of the people who live in the community and of the community itself. They're actually very beautiful art. It's a kind of art that the older I get, the more I appreciate it, because while it is rather beautiful and remarkable, it doesn't really require what most people would consider talent. In other words, you don't have to be great at drawing. You need to exercise some good taste and some creativity, but in a sense, it's the kind of thing anyone could hope to do. And I particularly appreciate that. So, I remember you as a student in my junior high school art class. That was a long time ago.
Right.
And yes, you got a master's in adult ed,
Right.
but none of this really was about art education or becoming an artist or getting art training.
No.
Um, and yet you decided to make art, I'll call it the focus, the principal tool that you use to communicate ideas and get motivated and focused. And so how
Yeah.
did you get to that?
It came to me, I would say, working with chalkboard, of course, as a teacher, that was kind of my way of practicing in my garage. And then during COVID, I didn't know really what I was gonna do. I was just doodling on the board, and then COVID hit. And then I was away from my job and I had time and peace. It was just a time where I could just receive something. So I went out there and I did what I did and I took a photo of it. And with that photo, started to see how the technology could help adjust the chalk and create a beautiful visual image.
How does the technology help?
The technology helps because you can edit photos, you could edit images with different colors. You can highlight instead of the chalk being dull, you could give it color.
I see. So you can enhance the photos using the editing software.
Yeah. I just kept going and kept going.
You developed what our artistic vocabulary. Images made up of words and made up of handwriting. And another important element is the materials you chose.
Yeah.
In a sense, it's very simple, but it's very genuine, very authentic, and you have a real feel for it. And I think a lot of people have a feel for it. So you came to this working on your own in your garage, but then you took this into your community work.
As long as there's a lesson behind what you're doing. So that's kind of where I use my education and my psychology degrees to say, I know what I'm trying to do. And somehow these images have to have a lesson within them. That's why I use the words. The words actually provide a lesson for each individual of their own to embrace. And that's kind of bring to the community. So when I'm in the community, the lessons are what I'm actually having participants produce from themselves.
I think it's kind of brilliant. And it's brilliant in the sense the heart of your work is conversations. So where people really, they reveal their heart and what they're thinking and what they're feeling and what they're fearing and what their hopes are. But that's words. And yet to elevate this to a level that's above mere words, you've created this activity in which it's become art, real art. And so again, I think that's kind of brilliant. It's perfect connection. Obviously, the participants are highly motivated and they really enjoy doing this. And you work with groups and there aren't people hanging back. They're into it.
Yeah, they're into it because my ideas are something practical. You have to think practical when you're dealing with social and emotional learning. So that's kind of what DULA's neighborhood art is, delivering to the community, art that is practical, where the students could actually do it with their hands and their brains.
Okay, so, and by the way, I'm looking, you sent me a list of big bullet items
Right.
in your life, not just your background. I see, you're a family person, you're a father. I know you're a grandfather. You experienced being a widower at a relatively young age and managed to get past that. And I didn't even know this until I took a closer look here, that you got a master's degree in adult education. So you're no stranger to the concepts behind education. You have a master's degree in psychology. You grew up in the inner city, right?
All of that mix, as you know, with the culture, and you seen it where we came from, and we came out of basically nothing. And then the education in my art, well, I knew that I wanted to be independent in whatever that I was doing. So I first earned when I was working on my bachelor's in human services, I had noticed that there was a work release program in my neighborhood. As I was walking my dog in the day, I'm like, what in the world? Like, couldn't imagine a work release program with mentally ill inmates in any community in New York. I couldn't think of that. I wanted to go in there and to see what was going on. This was my neighborhood. I said, hey, I wanted to bring a program focused on intangible, the stuff that we use in the Marines: courage, discipline, self-confidence, self-reliance, poise, self-direction, these things that you don't really have to have money for to live and do in your life. So with that, I figured that I can engage almost anyone as long as I have a topic to talk to them about. I can bring those elements into it, have a reasonable discussion. So I was offered the opportunity to come in every Sunday and talk to the men, a fatherhood program that I created, which was about 8 weeks. At the time, I wasn't doing any art at all. Again, took the intangibles that the Marine Corps focused on and then added a little twist of my own life, presented that to the men and worked with them to try to reduce recidivism.
You looked into your own background, largely focused by the Marines, and gave it back to them. And then at some point, you realized, well, you wanted to do art with the people you worked with. That's all excellent. So in the book Creative SEL, the book for which you contributed the activity, word portraits, you sent me an example in which a group focused on the concept of gratitude, really discussed what that meant to them at length. They brainstormed all sorts of related words, ideas, related feelings, all of which came out in their handwriting, in their words. And in the example in the book, that's focused around the central concept, the central word gratitude.
Right.
But you've done a great many others as well.
So I went and grabbed my book, Mr. G, so I could actually look at the image again here and see, yes, like, again, where I said there's a lesson. So not only could I present this, but also another instructor could. They could present the same work to a group.
That's a good point, that the book is really a book of suggestions and directions for teachers or people who lead groups. Doesn't even have to be public school. It could be something like the Boy Scouts or any other organization where people do serious work around social emotional learning. Some of the other themes you've worked on, can you think of any other examples? There's kindness,
mindfulness, communication, healthy communication. We have
all for one.
We have handling grief, relationship foundations, critical thinking,
Forgiveness, hope through action,
yes,
things like that. So these are all inspirational, but they're also all aspects of life that everybody has to deal with. Either you deal with it well, or you miss the opportunity, for living well.
That's another piece to DULA's neighborhood, is to help people discover a way of coping. The art is what, when you say how do you get the groups together, well, it's the art that brings them together, right? I use the art to bring the group together to focus on better coping skills. So when you talk about gratitude and peace, hopefulness, mindfulness, these are all intangible things. Right now, a lot of people, and that's what social emotional learning is really trying to conquer, like dealing with stress, dealing with obstacles, dealing with problems in our lives. And I believe that the community artwork that we're doing is, again, trying to help provide tools that individuals and communities can use through the art that focus on self-improvement, self-refinement, but not preachy, not poking, more, you can do it too. And that's kind of what the art that I present, I don't know what to call it. I'm not afraid to share it. I could just not share it and no one would ever see it. I'm not afraid to do that. We all have the ability to express ourselves artistically. That's a gift given from our creator.
Well, I think you put your finger on something crucial there. And it's something that took me a long while to discover. As a teacher, I was a mature teacher in my career, by the time you entered my class. But of course, like all teachers, I had to start from day one. I had to make some important discoveries. And one of the discoveries I made was the power of sharing. And when students understand from the very beginning of an activity that what they're going to be creating is going to be shared with others, especially their community, that speaks to them very strongly. All of a sudden, they become very serious.
Indeed.
They take the work seriously. As a young teacher in inner city Manhattan, I don't even mean Harlem. I started out on the Lower East Side, DULA. Like every other teacher, I had to cope with misbehavior from students. And gradually, I began to develop a way to be with the students that got past that. And a lot of that had to do with relationships. I'm not just the teacher and you're not just the student, it's me and you. But also, it had to do with the authenticity of the activity.
Exactly.
When students feel that their activity really has to do with their life,
Right.
they settle down, they settle into that. And when they understand that at least part of what they're going to be creating
Right.
is something externalized from within them,
Yes.
they're putting themselves out there on the
Right.
page and they're going to share that, they get quite serious about it.
Yeah, they really do. They do. They feel inspired, and that's one of my roles, is to lead that way. And to lead that way, that's how I lead the group, by hopefully giving them a living example of that, sharing the background, sharing the art, listening to their stories, asking them questions.
I'm looking at this photo. These kids are clearly paying deep attention to what you're saying because you're engaging them and talking about themselves and their community. And, it's reality based.
Right. Reality based, and it inspires a lot of times, especially in the inner city, and believe in themselves. So I always share examples of the art. It's all about a reason to survive. And I think that that's an important concept to add to the conversation.
Yeah, thanks for that, because that's really drilling down to the core of what makes this work. I think I shared with you that at the ISTE conference, ISTE stands for the International Society for Technology and Education. In fact, they're the organization that published our book. They have a massive conference every year in late June. and I presented on the book and using technology to foster social emotional learning. And I was looking around for which of the 32 activities in the book would be a good example of sharing the student product and of using technology to do that. And I realized, well, DULA's neighborhood was perfect for that. You know, you're 51 years old, but clearly technology is an important part of your life. And you reached for this quite naturally to share the program, DULA's Neighborhood, and the artwork. I found a DULA's Neighborhood website. I found DULA's Neighborhood on YouTube.
Yes.
I found you have a newsletter or mailing list. Or...
Facebook, Instagram. So with the extra support, that's one of the things I always stay with the youth because they kind of know what the heck is going on. So I have my technology elements. So right now we're talking about the 50th hip hop anniversary. So
yeah, we didn't talk about that, but
uh,
when you listed your influences, you made it a point to throw hip hop in there up near the top of the list. So maybe
yeah,
you talk about that a little bit.
yeah, that's the culture that, 1972, 73, I'm kind of was born into this energy. And that's why I say it was important that kind of changed the world, right? In a lot of ways. I know you have the good, the bad, the ugly, but the good is like, wow, this culture has changed the world. That's who I am.
Well, what I very much like hearing is that hip hop is an important thing to you in your life, just as something, music to listen to, ideas, and you pulled that into your art. And from pulling it into your art, you pulled it into your community, social, emotional learning work. It's very authentic. I probably never said this to you before, Dula, but you're an artist. You are an artist, um, and your artwork has an impact on your community, and you can't aspire to much more than that. By the way, before I forget, we're looking at this photo of a young woman there, and she is wearing a hoodie. And you sell these at a low cost on your DULA's neighborhood site.
Yeah.
But what I really like is the idea. So you took a group of your students, put this artwork together, and of course, as the teacher, you contributed to it as well. You took a digital photo of this, maybe you enhanced it a little bit, and you ordered some sweatshirts with the right. And I think that's, I remember when I was teaching and you were a student at the school in Harlem there, we had our school t-shirt and everyone loved it because it was our one version I did, and there was another teacher who had done the previous version, but it was very much art produced for and inside the community, and wearing it was a special thing. And you're upholding that tradition. And this is an idea that schools could use for community building and for fundraising, for a variety of reasons. Nothing for you to do. You take the photo and you go online and order it. And
Yes, exactly. Today, with the help of technology, you can really put your art a variety of different ways and share it. And technology helps to push it further for you. So that's a good.
to kind of wrap this up, I just want to know, what do you see next coming for DULA's neighborhood? Because it's not a static thing. At the point in which you contributed to the creative SEL book, it was one thing. You don't just switch it up, but it grows, it evolves. What do you see as an upcoming phase?
Well, the next piece is called the Bully Stoppers series that I created. That's part of DULA's Neighborhood's mission, is to help to prevent bullying in the community. So I figured that I needed to create some type of program. Information's all online, so it's easy to create a class and then utilize that to create the art in my own unique way. So Bully Stoppers is a program that focuses on what is bullying, who bullies, how do we prevent, we manage it, what is cyberbullying, just again, group discussions that help individuals identify what bullying is and how it could impact their lives and how they can help to stop it in their communities, in their families, in their work environment. Like, bullying is not just with kids. Bullying is also social emotional learning at its core, I believe. Bullying is at every level aspect that someone is trying to tell you to do something else, and trying to figure out how do you get around that without losing yourself.
Yeah, losing yourself without becoming something negative. Yeah, dealing with bullying and really understanding this dynamic thing to do with social emotional learning. In fact, there was one activity in the book about bullying, and of course, we need a great deal more. And Bully Stoppers, the title of your next phase, says a lot just in the title. But what I particularly like, I think I heard you correctly, you'll probably be doing this in person, but you also want to create a curriculum or a guide that people can access online so that a great many people can do this. And you'll be leveraging the ways to be effective that you discovered through developing DULA's neighborhood. In other words, it's the languaging and the discussions, but it's also taking those words and making art out of them and sharing that with the community. So that will be part of this as well. Sounds great. I think we're going to leave it at that. For more information about the book or to purchase it, check out the links in the show notes below. Also, you'll find one there for DULA's neighborhood. For more information about the book or to purchase it, check out the links in the show notes below. So you'll find one there for DULA's neighborhood.